The history of Brazil didn't recognize at any time the importance of black for the structure of the country or the black suffering over the years. The process of abolishing slavery did not guarantee an equal life between races. Political, social, and economic differences persist. The demand for public policies that prioritize the insertion of black in the university is whole. The unified black movement has guided racial quotas since its founding in 1978, already based on an older movement that made the same request. A milestone for the approval of racial quotas in public universities was the Third World Conference Against Racism, convened by the United Nations in 1997. The event took place in South Africa, and each country should present concrete proposals for the progress of racial equity. The Brazilian proposal caught the attention of the media, raising the issue of racial quotas in universities. More than a half of Brazilians declared themselves black, brown, or indigenous in the last census of Brazilian Institute of Geography and Statistics conducted in 2010. Even with this percentage, it's now easy to find black and browns living in an equal situation with the whites. In order to reduce inequity between blacks and whites in the country, the quota law was passed in 2012. The law indicates that of the date, all federal institutions of higher education in the country must reserve part of its vacancies for students in public, low income, black, brown, and indigenous schools. The reserve started at 12% and reached 50% in 2016. Social quotas represent the reason of their home existence. The gap between public and private schools clearly provide different opportunity for students of different social classes. Without quotas for disadvantaged students, candidates with a greater financial stability will continue to win seats in the best universities. The ideal will be to be qualified public education, but that will take decades. The University of Brasilia was the first federal institution to approve quotas for ethnic and racial minorities, and the first Brazilian institution to approve quotas exclusively for blacks. From 2013, 18 of the students who graduate the university are black and joined the institution thanks to that system. In the current action system for admission to federal universities and institute of education, 50% of vacancies must be for people in public school. Of these vacancies, 25% are for people with a family income of less than one time the minimum wage, and the other half are available people with family income of more than 1.5 times the minimum wage. The job offers restricted by ethno-racial criteria are adjusted to this reserve of 50% of the total vacancies offered by the university, and each course according to the entrance exam or CISU. To calculate the number of vacancies for black, browns, and indigenous people, demographic census data are used. Regions with a greater number of blacks should offer a larger vacancy reserved for these people. States with a greater number of indigenous people should offer a larger reserved space for indigenous people, and so on. In the case of federal universities and institutes, in addition to self-declaration without supporting the convention ID, such as candidate, birth certificate, military limit certificate, or identification, and either the direct ancestor more than a father. The applicant must go through an interview with the bank. The examiner to prove the truth of self-declaration. A problem resulting for the latter case is that there is no way to express a specific objectivity to recognize people of color and subjectivity. The criteria adopted by examiners has already caused injustice and even fraud. In 1980, the enrollment of black students in public universities and college in Brazil exceeded whites for the first time. This group began to represent 50.3% of higher education students in public school, according to the Social Inequalities by Color or Race survey in Brazil, published by IBGE. Although today they represent more than and a half of students in federal universities, this group is still underrepresented since to date it corresponds 55% of the Brazilian population. The survey also revealed that the black and brown population is improving their education rates, both access and permanence. Attrition dropped from 30% in 2006 to 80% in 2018. The population age 18 to 24, the percentage that attended higher education increased for 50%. Despite the progress, the percentage was much lower than the achieved by white in the same age group, which is 88%. The temporary nature of the quotas emphasized by the Minister of the Supreme Court and the understanding that although affirmative action is not the best option, should be emphasized, is a necessary step onto a more equalitarian society is built. As the trajectory of building a more economic reality is long, the definition of objective criteria and its counter monitoring of its great relevance. Certainly, the fact is that once the constitutional quota has been judged, new challenges arise for the public universities. Sin is not to the Federal Supreme Court to decide the criteria for the prioritization of such measures.